Hello and welcome to Genetics and Plant Breeding video series. Here is the latest news on genes for long lifespan of banyan and peepal trees identified. Friends, in figure 1 you can see the banyan tree and figure 2 or picture 2 is the peepal's tree. The research was conducted by Indian Institute of Science, Education and Research, that is IISER Bhopal. As you know, our ordinary field crops lack ability to cope up with quick environmental stresses. But in these two plant species, that is banyan and peepal, due to evolutionary bottleneck happened before zero point 0.8 million years ago, there are significant evolutions for longevity and other characters. The key findings of this study were for the genes for long shelf life, adaptive evolution, and some of the genes which are responsible for attracting wasp and other kinds of insect species. So let's begin and see what are the interesting facts about this long life and other features. The research was conducted in two crops as I have already told. The scientific name of banyan is Ficus bengalensis and peepal is Ficus religiosa. Here the lab techniques used are whole genome sequencing by taking the leaf tissues and comprehensive genome-wide phylogenetic analysis of about 50 germplasm plant species collected from different regions. As they found out, the draft genome sequencing of banyan is about 392 megabase pairs and people is about 333 megabase pairs. About 17 genes of banyan and 19 genes of people are found out here for different environmental stresses. The key technology or the finding is based on multiple signs of adaptive evolution, that is the technique or that is the peculiar character for identification of these genes. The adaptive evolution in genes into cellular mechanism explains the well-developed aerial roots of banyan trees which protect them from environmental challenges. Both plants show genes with signatures of multiple adaptive evolution evolved in phytohormone signaling pathways that regulate plant developmental senescence and aging process. So, I'll read out some of the facts for you and the basic research conducted by these scientists. There is a comprehensive evolutionary analysis performed across 20 phylogenetically closer eudicot species revealed adaptive evolution in genes involved in major cellular mechanisms associated with long-term survival like phytohormonal signaling, senescence pathways, fig wasp coevolution, stress tolerance, which is the highlight disclosures of this research. Genes showing multiple signs of adaptive evolution in banyan were mainly associated with root development, leaf formation, metabolism, pollen tube and seed development and other developmental processes. The MSA gene of people tree were mainly associated with root development, reproduction and metabolism. The genes related to root, leaf, and reproductive growth that have undergone evolution in these ficus species explain the well developed morphological characters of these trees. Gene families expansion contraction analysis undertaken by the research have revealed that the highly expanded gene families of both the species were involved in disease resistance functions in plants. In case of banyan trees, 15 of 17 MSA genes were also associated with tolerance against environmental stress, drought, oxidative stress, and pathogens. In people trees, 17 out of 19 MSA genes were associated with stress tolerance activities. In addition, the researchers identified 7 genes evolved in 2 pathways that produce volatile organic compounds in floral scents which attract wasps for pollination. One of the key findings of this study is identification of signatures of adaptive evolution genes that are associated with providing longevity in both the species, particularly the genes related to sustained growth and development for plant root development also along with flower development and metabolism related adaptation studies. Adaptive evolution in genes in two cellular mechanisms might explain well developed aerial roots that is unique to banyan tree. Both plants shows genes with signatures of multiple adaptive evolution involved in phytohormone signaling pathways. These pathways function to regulate the plant development senescence and aging process. This could one more reason why banyan and peepal trees have long lifespan. Both banyan and peepal trees have select plant disease resistant genes families that have been expanded through gene duplication events in the course of evolution which confer greater longevity. Also, 88% and 89% of the MSA genes in banyan and peepal trees, respectively, associated with tolerance against biotic and abiotic stress. This in turn helps with these plants to survive when these face environmental challenges. To survive in tropical and subtropical ecosystem as keystone species, ficus trees have evolved their development and stress tolerance mechanisms. The importance or peculiar character of this study is availability of their genome sequence will aid in further studies on this ecologically important genus and other comparative aspects including medicinal properties between short-lived and long-lived plants. That means as we find out these MSA genes in these banyan and peepal trees, we can correlate and do the parallel evolutionary studies in other different species also, as well as we can incorporate these genes in our annual and biannual cereal or field crops by which we can get the greater adaptive behavior and we can enrich and we can replace the negative characters from our normal field crops. Friends, many times in my mind, I feel that how babool and other kinds of plants grow under stressed conditions, like they grow with less water availability, and under some plants they grow under severe salt stress conditions also. So, if these genes and draft genome sequencing can be made in these species, it will be helpful to develop different sequences as well as to make our crop plants strong by incorporating those genes into ours. So, here you should know the definitions of germplasm, keystone species, and MSA, and all these things. So, as you know, keystone species means the species on which many of the species are are dependent. That means a species which is having relation with many of the species development as well as survival. So here the homework for you is just to think about all those species which can withstand the high environmental stresses, and if you are a researcher, just go on focusing on identification of the genes responsible for it, the metabolic processes, physiological aspects, and all. What is your thinking? Just keep it under the comment section. Thank you so much for watching. Stay tuned. Thank you.